Yes, Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep. To start out, I have to say that I'm cutting this review into two distinct sections, as I have very differing opinions on a casual playthrough versus a 100% run. So look forward to that. And I will also be considering BBS Point 2, a fragmentary passage, in this video as well. The combat feels really good at the beginning, with only a few things pointing to the fact that the game isn't well optimized, such as all melee skills being far inferior, even on the melee-based character Terra. It has a similar style to Recoded with the command deck and command melding mechanics, but even that falls flat by the end of the game, as the skills are at their maximum strength from the beginning, and the only way to make them stronger is leveling up and using a keyblade that scales with the kind of command you do. And yes, I know leveling doesn't sound like an issue, but this game was made to be beaten at level 20 to 30, and the level scaling quickly falls to ruins after. So command melding works in much the same way as Recoded, with small changes to the system itself. Rather than seeing the result and being able to change it out, it gives you a question marker until you pick up the recipes hidden around the game. And you can add a crystal to the melding process. The crystal helps focus what ability you'll get from the meld, which can be useful when going for something specific like Leaf Bracer or Once More. D-links are basically connections made in the hearts of those you meet along your journey. But that sounds sappy, so instead I'll tell you that they're your replacements for summons. And they aren't anywhere as useful. The D-links give you a themed command deck based around whatever character that you activate, with Snow White having a deck of all the dwarves' names and others having similar gimmicks. Honestly, I felt like only one of these D-links were ever useful, and that was Aqua's near the beginning of the game, as that's the only way to get Kier so early. There is an arena in this game, and surprisingly it's not in Olympus Coliseum. Rather, it's in the Mirage Arena, which used to have the multiplayer aspects in the PSP version, but has scrapped that in this version. The lower towers aren't super hard to deal with the main pain in the neck being bosses at the end of each arena mission. Heck, there's even a mission for you if you just need to grind money, being the mission Risky Riches, which is unlocked at arena level 8. And finally, the finisher trees, which I mentioned a while ago in my KH1 video, but didn't realize just how simple they are. Each tier has a progression line, and the color coincides with what you need to do to unlock the next finisher. Most of them require you to just defeat a bunch of unversed, and yes, you heard me right, unversed, not heartless, while others have you go into critical health 5 times, but they aren't really all that bad to max out. Each finisher has its own unique, well, finisher move that has its own effects, such as the money ones causing enemies to drop money when hit, or demolition calling down meteors. Next up is the worlds, and honestly, these are going to be interesting, since of course there are 3 different playthroughs worth of encounters to weigh in on here. The Land of Departure is mainly just a cutscene. What did you want from me? Okay, fine. There is a fight here as Terra against Master Ericus, but that's literally all you do here. And I guess a Mark of Mastery exam, but that's just hitting some balls around, so I don't count that. So this is the Cinderella world, and honestly, it is one of my favorite sections in the game, that being Ventus's run through the area, as for some reason he's the only one to get shrunk down to the size of a Jacques. The reason this area is one of my favorites as Ventus is the fact that you can easily grind all your dealings here, simply by using these giant balls of yarn to destroy everything easily. Aqua and Terra get the same areas though, being the courtyard and various rooms of the castle, but not much else really happens here. Ventus skins the family cat and refuses to elaborate before leaving. Aqua makes pumpkin pie, now with way more war crime. And Terra goes postal and kills the composer for only playing one song for 2 hours straight. The only fun person to play here is Ventus. Past that, I found myself being bored. Ah yes, Dwarf Woodlands, where you can be accused of being a thief and then leave without accomplishing anything. The mines are, in my opinion, well designed, but sadly, only Ventus gets to see them. Aqua and Terra fight a mirror for some reason, and Ventus doesn't adhere to the words of Smokey the Bear and starts a forest fire. A lot of the areas in this world feel boring or overly long and complex, with no rhyme or reason to them. Also, both Terra and Aqua can pick up Fission Faraga here, which is a very useful skill in order to make Mega Flare. Once again, Ventus is the most fun to play, minus his escort mission. Maybe I just don't like the other characters. Terra breaks an enter to watch a girl sleep and ends up stealing her heart. Ah yes, the standard Disney trope. Akko gets to hear the singular word that raises the rating to everyone 10 and up, and Ventus commits the greatest invasion of someone's privacy by reading their memories. Terra ends up going to his mandatory home ec class and gets expelled by breaking the equipment. Akko gets to live out every D&D nerd's fantasy and slays a dragon. Ventus got lost on campus and fights the local wizard because they refused to give him directions. I literally forgot about this world until I went ahead and wrote up the script, so you can guess how well this works for me. Here we go, the first unoriginal world in this game. Yes, we had seen it before, albeit more explosive. Terra uses the wrong pronouns on a wizard and gets cancelled for it. Aqua meets the mouse that would soon begin a hostile takeover into everything you know, in-game and out. Ventus helps a duck, who admits that he's breaking the rules as well, and then as hush money, gives him tickets to Disney World. Our three protagonists meet up and actually help one another for once, only to immediately hate each other. Terra negotiates with a terrorist, Aqua fights evil Ventus, and Ventus gets ignored by Senpai. Overall, a fun area to run through, and definitely isn't taking up over 100 gigabytes of space and recordings from when I grinded here. Mini games. None of them are fun. Moving on. Oh god! It's everywhere! I mean, hey! Olympus Coliseum is back! Yay! Ventus convinces two championship fighters to throw their matches. Terra beats a man who accepts his defeat, and is then possessed by the devil. Aqua fights off the advances of Danny DeVito, but instead uses him to get into the game so she can fight Snowball. Wait, that doesn't happen yet. Ah, yes! She fights the Ice Titan. She is then approached by a man who is fated to die in 2 weeks, and flat out turns him down on the spot. This run was kind of fun. I mean, it added an extra room to the two existing ones, but we once again get trapped in the same area as every previous game. Oh hey, is that another ship? And now Terra's in jail. Ventus is getting really good at breaking and entering, except this time he found the solitary confinement block. Aqua is conscripted into the military, only to commit treason as soon as she's out of sight. Terra gets to become a part of the Lilo and Stitch TV show and fights 221. Aqua assaults her commanding officer because, and I quote, "The prisoner is so cute though!" Ventus decides to live his childhood dream of being a Pokemon master, and uses Stitch to fight Nihilego. Honestly, I kinda hate this world. Not because I get lost easily, but because they brought Lilo and Stitch in as a world and made it have so little relevance to even the base material's story. Terra attempts to help one of his elders and is immediately turned into a criminal. Again. Ventus gets abducted by children half his age, and Aqua gets to chaperone the school field trip. Terra fights the oldest boy on the island because he mixed up prison rules with the schoolyard ones. Ventus fights his elder because he doesn't believe in magic. Aqua gets carpet bombed and then once again has to fight Ventus's edgy DeviantArt OC. This world does gain my ire for being impossible to maneuver, especially when I'm fighting and there are constant balls exploding in my face. Cutscenes? Skip! Cutscenes, the world, the game, the movie. Again. It's time for the final showdown. There's nothing funny to say about when they land here, but they do play in tornadoes for a bit. When each character gets to the final battle, they try to fight them one by one, like idiots. Terra rushes ahead and gets a mountain to the gut. He then has to fight Xehanort himself, along that OC, which won't shut up about how edgy it is. At the same time, Ventus is a popsicle, while Aqua fights the terrorist. This fight is so boring as you have no time to hit him, so just block all his projectiles and you'll be fine. Terra then fights Xehanort alone. Ventus finally thaws out and has to fight the edgy boy now. After he beats him, his OC is all, "I'm a part of you, let's merge and destroy everything." Ventus fights his OC within his own mind, while Aqua and the mouse get absolutely flattened by the combination of Maker and OC. Once the whole Ventus arc of this anime ends, we find that Terra has been possessed, but his soul is strong enough to possess his armor. And then he proceeds to kick his own butt from beyond the metaphorical grave. Alright, so we've come to the normie end of the game, and honestly, the main story doesn't give you enough time to play with mechanics that are absolutely broken in the worst way in this game. So for a normal run, I'd give the game a 7 out of 10. But we're not done here quite yet. Yes, the glorified tech demo for KH3. And yes, this is technically a different game from Birth by Sleep, but it has it in the title, so I'm just gonna deal with it here. This actually plays well, though the areas you go through aren't really all that existent. I'm not joking when I say this is a tech demo either, considering it's maybe 2 to 3 hours in length, depending on how good you are. And the only real development we get here is why Mickey doesn't have a shirt at the end of KH1. So, 6 out of 10, I guess? It's fun enough, but I didn't feel any sort of connection with the game. However, look at these cat ears! Now we reach the part of the video where I have to be absolutely calm, or else I'll end up screaming about every little thing here. So, the Mirage Arena is completely optional for normal people, but for completionists with no regards for their own health, every fight is required. All the lower tier fights, the 1 to 3 star ones, are incredibly easy, and there's absolutely nothing worth talking about with them. But then we hit the more aggravating missions, such as Villain's Vendetta, which is a boss rush, which wouldn't be so bad if the Mirage Arena specific fights didn't constantly teleport or go invulnerable, while also becoming a 60s Batman villain by putting you in a giant bird cage. Yes, that doesn't sound so bad here, but go on, play it yourself. You'll see. You'll all see! Did someone say Monopoly? Because I sure didn't. The command board is a much less fun version of Monopoly. All you have to do is gather a certain amount of money and then reach the goal. And it's also a good way of grinding levels for your commands, but after having to win 7 times for the Mirage Arena, per character by the way, it loses all its appeal. Not to mention, when you go for the 100%, you also have to win on every map outside of the Mirage Arena as well. Not to mention the fact that you have to land on specific spots on specific boards in order to claim commands you can literally only get from certain boards. Whose idea was this? It's not even cohesive. You're supposed to get the fruit into the enemy's goal, but you really don't have enough control for that. Rather, you just smack the fruit willy-nilly till you get them in. Not to mention defend your goal all alone, with the only thing actively helping you being moving nets that block the fruit themselves. You have to complete all of the fruit pull matches with all of the characters, as there is a shot locked behind beating Captain Dark in this minigame. This could have been a fun minigame if the controls were better, honestly. Like, make it so you hit triangle, square, and circle to coincide with the duck on the left, middle, and right, and you're golden! However, instead you only hit X while moving your focus to the next note, hoping that you got the timing right. This got annoying after going for the achievement to get a fantastic scoring on all of the master forms of the songs, which may or may not have taken me over 4 hours alone. Even worse is you have to complete most of the songs on each character, as there is yet another shot lock behind the second to last song on master mode. The races are kinda like Mario Kart, but without any of the soul or fun that comes with it. The vehicle has horrible turning capabilities, so you have to use your emergency brake to turn anywhere near where you want to. Most of the maps for the races were completely fine, except for the last one, where you had to find the most efficient path that you could easily fall off of and be stuck on the slowest path in order to win the race. At 5 laps, being the standard, the races took too long with too bad of controls to be redeemable in any way. So the command collection is the page of every item, every command, and every shot lock. The amount of grinding to get rare melds and maxed out D-links is absolutely infuriating. Having to acquire 1 rare meld is already bad enough, but then you're telling me I have to get every single one? I spent 3 hours grinding for a single rare meld shot lock called Lightning Ray, but on the bright side, Lightning Ray can be used to cheese one of the super bosses later on in the game. The super bosses in this game are difficult, and the only way to actually beat them is to find a cheese strat, which Lingering Will does have in Cage 2, but I was able to beat him legitimately first. However, Birth by Sleep doesn't have any sort of way of doing the fights legitimately, with all of them having to be cheesed in different ways. Vanitas Remnant, I just used Ice Cream and finishers to beat, as if you try to fight him normally, he phases through every one of your attacks, and then blinds you so you couldn't try again if you wanted to. No Heart is, for the most part, the only one you could feasibly beat without cheese, but I ended up using Rhythm Mixer and Lightning Ray to delete his health and safety. The Armor of the Master... oh boy, I had so many problems with this one. This is the boss that I had to get Lightning Ray for to cheese, and of course that grind alone took 3 hours, but it was worth it. The way of cheesing the armor is to bait a melee attack he can't teleport out of, and then spam the shot lock until he dies. That's it. But of course, the last super boss, that I admit I still haven't beaten, is Mysterious Figure, who ends up being young Xehanort, who we'll meet in the next Kingdom Hearts video. I spent 8 hours trying to beat this guy, and come close a few times, but have never successfully beat him. Maybe I'll go back and try to beat him later on, but as for now, I have to put the game down before I end up dropping the Kingdom Hearts series entirely. In the end, with the constant grind of trying to hit 100%, which sadly I could not achieve at the current moment, I would have to give the completionist run of Birth by Sleep a 1 out of 10, as I lost too many hours of my life trying to get the completion. I wouldn't even be so mad if the game functioned properly, but there just aren't enough movement or defensive abilities to make up for the fact that the combat is severely unbalanced ever since it was a PSP game. But I don't know why they couldn't fix at least some of its issues with the 1.5 plus 2.5 remix.